luck to you now. Refuge has seen a 50% increase in the number of calls to their domestic abuse helpline. Well, Home Secretary Priti Patel joins me now with an exclusive announcement. Home Secretary, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We appreciate it. And amidst COVID-19, there's another serious epidemic, if you like, and that's domestic violence. As I said, 50% increase to helplines. We reckon at least 16 people have been killed. Action is desperately needed, isn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Lorraine, and thank you for letting me on the show today to talk about this, because this is about collective action. This is about what the government can do, but also how we can support the sectors, so domestic abuse sectors, working with the police, working with charities in particular, to do so much more to help people. And that's why I am announcing today a new Hidden Harm Summit that will be chaired and led by our Prime Minister next Thursday on the 21st. And we will effectively be driving an action plan, a really strong action plan covering vulnerable people, domestic abuse victims, which are men as well as women, but also children, but people who are vulnerable. Because as we know, Lorraine, and your programme has shown again and again and again over recent weeks, lockdown, people being at home, has also meant that home is not a safe place for people when home really should be during a time like this.
No, exactly. And it can't just be window dressing this. People need help. They need practical help, funding, all of that. We know how stretched everyone is, but can you guarantee that people who do feel vulnerable will actually get the help they need?
So there is a lot of really good work, Lorraine, taking place in this area in terms of getting help, getting actual help and support to vulnerable people. And I actually want to just say thank you and pay tribute to everyone in the sector. So domestic abuse sector, the charities, of course, refuges themselves, because they're all part of that, bigger picture that can help to really pull people together, but give them the support they need. So we've provided money. We've absolutely provided money. I announced £2 million about 4 weeks ago, and half of that has already gone to the front line. Government's announced another £76 million across the board to go out to get more refuge spaces, more equipment, particularly for people that work in domestic abuse, because they're working from home right now as well. They're not in their offices. So how we get more kit, equipment, IT to them. There are so many strands here. And I spend every day speaking to the police. I chaired our National Policing Board last week, where we spoke specifically about hidden harms, domestic abuse, vulnerable people, how we support them. We have police officers around the country actually going to people's homes, knocking on doors right now where there are known domestic abuse cases, perpetrators. So all of this is being joined up in our system, and that's exactly how it should be.
Absolutely. Now, moving on, of course, to COVID-19, numbers going back up again, sadly. Concern about all of these changes, and we should say just happening in England today. Primary schools supposed to be going back in June, possibly followed by secondary schools, but you're going to have a fight in your hands because teachers' unions aren't having it. They're saying they're not going to cooperate. Parents and teachers incredibly anxious. It just feels that this is too much too soon and it's not going to work.
So I think, first of all, look, I'm a mum, I'm a parent, and I know what it's like right now with having a young child at home who actually wants to go to school. Safety is the most important thing right now. We've had lockdown for a very good reason. We want to stop the spread of this virus. I don't think this is about having a fight with anyone. At the end of the day, the government is working with every single partner, whether it's a business, the trade unions, the teaching unions. Because when we bring schools back on stream, and that will happen in a phased way, there's no big bang to this. It's got to happen in a responsible way. We do that with the teaching unions and with the teaching profession. And of course, I think we all recognise now social distancing is here to stay. Our lives are going to be very different, but as we open society up, and that's effectively what we are speaking about now, I think it's really important. People's lives have been on hold. Our children are not getting the education they want. They're not even getting to see their friends. We're not seeing our friends and family. That's hard. So we've got to work together, be really responsible, support each other. No one has the answer to any of this right now. There's no silver bullet. So we've got to cooperate and collaborate and work together to make this happen.
You talk about social distancing is here to stay, but we've got this ludicrous situation in our airports right now, which seems utterly bizarre and mind-boggling. Between the start of the year and March the 22nd, 18 million people arrived in this country into airports. Only 273 were quarantined. We reckon there's about 15,000 people a day coming in here. There's no checks. There's no tests. The safety of airport workers is paramount. And also, people could be bringing coronavirus in from countries like America, from Asia, from parts of Africa, and we're not testing them, and we don't seem to be doing anything about this, and it seems utterly bizarre.
Well, first of all, that's not fully accurate, Lorraine. There's a lot of things that have taken place over recent months. And you've got to remember, at the beginning of the year, when coronavirus became more prevalent around the world, China in particular, Wuhan, and then obviously as it spread through parts of Europe, we were asking people to self-isolate in January, February and March, people that were coming into the UK.
But what we're doing mandatory, though. It wasn't mandatory. You weren't saying you must do this. It was just, it was up to them. It was their common sense. My daughter, for example, came back over 2 weeks ago from Singapore, decided herself to go into quarantine because she thought it was a responsible thing to do. But I'm sure that other people would not be as responsible.
So it's slightly different now to what it was back then as well at the beginning of the year and over the last 3 months. Of course, you know, we've now got the R value down in the UK, and obviously we want to contain the virus in the UK and keep the numbers low. And we are actually looking at quarantine measures. That is what I'm working on and looking at that right now, because we have to stop a second wave. As the rest of the world potentially unlocks and opens its own society and people potentially travel, we must also remember, in terms of numbers coming into the country right now, they're not general travellers. These are people, and I know, I see the figures. Travel is down by 97% compared to this time last year. The only travellers coming to the UK, we've got freight. We need goods still to flow into the UK. That's keeping our shops supplied. People are all ordering goods around the world. But repatriation flights, we still have a lot of British nationals overseas, and they're coming back on repatriation flights, and that is the priority. But it is right, now that we've got the R value lower, that we contain this virus, we control this virus. And Lorraine, you've heard this as part of government messaging as well. That's what we must do. But actually, this is about the conditionality. So all the measures that we're speaking about right now about unlocking society, that's all conditional on all of us playing our part in keeping the R value down. If that goes up again, then quite frankly, that would be so devastating for, I think, all of us. That would lead to more restrictions. That would be really unhelpful. And obviously that would lead to greater spread of the disease, which is why now is the time. Now we've got that value down to bring such measures in place. And I'm working to do that. I'm absolutely working to do that. And let me also assure your viewers that since March this year, I have in my department been commissioning work, research and studies to look at how we can take more proactive measures at the border, but measures that work. So you mentioned temperature checks and testing and things of that nature. We are guided by the science, and the science has told us that that would not work.
On testing and on PPE here in the UK, it has been woeful. I know it's something that Dr. Hillary has talked to many of your colleagues, haven't you, Hillary?
I have indeed,
PPE, and
yeah.
It's been a real worry, hasn't it?
And some of them are still very worried. Some of them are buying their own equipment or having to resort to that, and they're worried about the spare capacity in hospitals. I mean, when are we going to get an answer to this? Because so many firms have offered help and they've been turned down.
Yeah, no, Dr. Hillary, you're absolutely right, and thank you. I think you played a really important role as well in, you know, actually communicating what people need to do day in, day out to stop the spread of the virus. And this is a sort of collective effort. I think actually it has now become a national effort around PPE. I'm an Essex MP, and I've been contacted by many firms locally, myself as well, saying we want to help in this national effort. There is much more taking place. Let me give you that assurance now. The Cabinet Office and government have led that work stream, but the demands, as we know, you've already heard me say, I think social distancing is here to stay. So as we move on, open up society in a different way, we're already hearing more about face coverings, you know, if you're out and about. There will be greater demands, but I think the key thing, Dr. Hillary, you've said this, is to make sure that we protect the NHS and people on the front line in the NHS and in care homes. They are prioritised in terms of PPE, and that's clearly the government's objective, and that's what we're all working to do.
I wonder how you are coping, you know, on a, if you like, on a human level, because on your watch, so many deaths. People are saying it could be as high as 60,000. The Prime Minister was at death's door. You've come in for an awful lot of criticism. Remember when you took the Downing Street briefing, you got a lot of criticism about that. You've been accused of bullying. You've been accused of all sorts of things. As a human being, how do you deal with that every single day and get up and go to your work and try and carry on?
Well, first of all, Lorraine, I'm a politician, so criticism comes in every single form, every single day and every minute of the day. Now, my main priority is to serve my country and to serve the Prime Minister who has put me in this role and to do the best job that I possibly can. I have an enormous remit here and I cannot let that criticism just get to me. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, right now, we're in a national emergency and all of us collectively across government are working to absolutely do our utmost to stop the spread of this virus and make sure that we can now work together to open up society. We're working as one team, and as you've heard me say that so far as well, it's important that we all work together, support each other, work as a team. This is a national effort, it really is. And, you know, it's easy for people to pick holes in people and say, you should be doing X, you should be doing Y. I'd say to your viewers right now, you know, doing a job like this, yeah, it's tough, it's a privilege, but at the end of the day, I'm here to serve, I'm here to deliver for the British public. That's what this government was elected to do on a range of things, in addition to addressing the coronavirus pandemic. But the government is putting its shoulder to the wheel and working very collectively to do absolutely everything we can to protect the British public.
Home Secretary, thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Very interesting. Social distancing is here to stay. Was the clear message there?
Yeah.
You know, our lives will change dramatically.
It will.
There will be